Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Naurin. In today's bulletin, we will present important news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. January 6 heroes honored for defending Capitol from Trump mob. Georgia voters settle last Senate seat. Arizona certifies 2022 election despite GOP complaints. Power cut by shooting could be restored sooner than expected. US says it will extend temporary status for Haitians. Maryland bans TikTok in state agencies, latest state to act. Colorado gay club shooting suspect charged with hate crimes. Trump faces peril in dogs probe after decades of scrutiny. Kirstie Alley, Emmy-winning Cheers star, dies at 71. Jim Stewart, co-founder of Stax Records in Memphis, dies. Ukraine leader defiant as drone strikes hit Russia again. Russia claims Kiev hit its air bases, fires more missiles. EU Western Balkans boost partnership amid Ukraine war. Man arrested after egg allegedly thrown at King Charles III. Kyle Gibson, Orioles finalized $10 million one-year contract. Ronaldo dropped as World Cup starter, young stand-in shines. And Ronaldo lets Portugal beat Switzerland 6-1 at World Cup. Now news in detail. Law enforcement officers who defended the US Capitol on January 6, 2021 were honored Tuesday with congressional gold medals, praised as heroes for securing democracy when they fought off a brutal and bloody attack by supporters of then-President Donald Trump. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi opened an emotional ceremony. Tensions still raw in the stately Capitol Rotunda, which was overrun that day when Trump supporters roamed the halls trying to stop Congress from certifying Joe Biden's election. January 6 was a day of horror and heartbreak. It is also a moment of extraordinary heroism, staring down deadly violence and despicable bigotry, Pelosi said. In bestowing Congress' highest honor, Pelosi praised the heroes for courageously answering the call to defend our democracy in one of the nation's darkest hours. To recognize the hundreds of officers who were at the Capitol on January 6, the medals will be placed in 4 locations: at U.S. Capitol Police Headquarters, the Metropolitan Police Department, the Capitol, and the Smithsonian Institution. In signing the legislation last year, Biden said that one will be placed at the Smithsonian Museum so all visitors can understand what happened that day. Georgia voters on Tuesday were deciding the country's final Senate contest, choosing between Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock and Republican football legend Herschel Walker after a 4-week runoff blitz that has drawn a flood of outside spending to an increasingly personal fight. This year's runoff has lower stakes than the two in 2021, when victories by Warnock and fellow Georgia Democrat John Ossoff gave Democrats control of the Senate. But it's still important. The outcome will determine whether Democrats have an outright 51-49 Senate majority or control a 50-50 chamber based on Vice President Kamala Harris' tie-breaking vote. Cold, rainy conditions greeted voters in the Atlanta area. At an elementary school in suburban Johns Creek, lines formed before the polls opened but later moved swiftly, with voters undeterred by the weather. The runoff brings to a close a bitter fight between Warnock, the state's first black senator, and the senior minister of the Atlanta church where Martin Luther King Jr. preached, and Walker, a former University of Georgia football star and political novice who has campaigned with the support of former President Donald Trump. Arizona's top officials certified the midterm election results Monday, formalizing victories for Democrats over Republicans who falsely claimed the 2020 election was rigged. The certification opens a 5-day window for formal election challenges. Republican Kari Lake, who lost the race for governor, is expected to file a lawsuit in the coming days after she has spent weeks of criticizing the administration of the election. Election results have largely been certified without issue around the country, but Arizona was an exception. Several Republican-controlled counties delayed their certification despite no evidence of problems with the vote count. Cochise County in southeastern Arizona blew past the deadline last week, forcing a judge to intervene on Thursday and order the county supervisors to certify the election by the end of the day. Crews are making progress on restoring power to a county where one or more vandals shut up substations, but the repairs won't be complete until later in the week, Duke Energy said Tuesday. The power company said in a message to customers posted on its website that it is on track to restore power throughout Moore County by Thursday morning, in line with previous estimates. Our technicians continue to work in 24-hour shifts and remain on schedule to bring service back on by early Thursday, the statement said. Nearly 36,000 customers were without power in the county, down from a peak of around 45,000, according to poweroutage.us. Authorities have said the outages began shortly after 7 p.m. Saturday night, after one or more people drove up to two substations, breached the gates and opened fire on them. Duke Energy officials have said the damage requires sophisticated repairs and delivery of equipment from outside of the area. The Biden administration said Monday that it would expand temporary legal status for Haitians already living in the United States, determining conditions in the Caribbean nation were too dangerous for their forced return. The Homeland Security Department said Haitians who were in the United States November 6 could apply for temporary protected status, and those who were granted it last year could stay an additional 18 months until August 3, 2024. The administration has extended temporary status for several countries and expanded or introduced it for Haiti, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Myanmar, Cameroon, and Venezuela, reversing a Trump-era trend to cut back on protections for those already in the United States. TPS, which typically comes with authorization to work, may be extended in increments up to 18 months for countries struck by natural disasters or civil strife. Wisconsin's Republican representatives in Congress on Tuesday called on Democratic Governor Tony Evers to delete the video platform TikTok from all state government devices, including his own, calling it a national security threat. The lawmakers told Evers in a letter that the popular video sharing app should be removed because it can be used by the Chinese government to spy on users and promote Chinese Communist Party propaganda. Wisconsinites expect their governor to be aware of the dangerous national security threats TikTok poses and to protect them from this avenue for CCP intelligence operations, said the letter signed by U.S. Senator Ron Johnson and U.S. Representative Mike Gallagher, Tom Tiffany, Glenn Grothman, Brian Stale, and Scott Fitzgerald. The request comes a week after South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, a Republican, banned state employees and contractors from accessing TikTok on state-owned devices, citing its ties to China. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, also a Republican, on Monday banned TikTok from all state government devices. The suspect accused of entering a Colorado gay nightclub clad in body armor and opening fire with an AR-15 style rifle, killing 5 people and wounding 17 others, was formally charged with hate crimes as well as murder on Tuesday. Anderson Lee Aldridge, 22 years old, sat upright in a chair during the hearing and appeared alert. In an earlier court appearance just a few days after the shooting, the defendant's head and face were covered with bruises and Aldridge had to be prompted by attorneys to respond to questions from a judge. Investigators said Aldridge entered Club Q, a sanctuary for the LGBTQ community in the mostly conservative city of Colorado Springs, just before midnight on November 19 and began shooting during a drag queen's birthday celebration. The killing stopped after patrons wrestled the suspect to the ground, beating Aldridge into submission, they said. Aldridge had been held on hate crime charges, but prosecutors had said previously they weren't sure if those counts would stick because they needed to assess if there was adequate evidence to show it was a bias-motivated crime. As a businessman and president, Donald Trump faced a litany of lawsuits and criminal investigations, yet emerged from the legal scrutiny time and again with his public and political standing largely intact. But he has perhaps never confronted a probe as perilous as the Mar-a-Lago investigation, an inquiry focused on the potential mishandling of top-secret documents. The sense of vulnerability has been heightened in recent weeks, not only by the Justice Department's appointment of a special counsel with a reputation for aggressiveness, but also by the removal of a Trump-requested independent arbiter in the case, and by judges' unequivocal rejection of his lawyers' arguments. It's impossible to predict how much longer the investigation will last or whether the Justice Department will take the unprecedented step of indicting a former president and current candidate. But Trump is no longer shielded from prosecution the way he was as president, and some legal experts regard the Mar-a-Lago investigation as centered on more straightforward, factual and legal questions than the prior probes he has dealt with. Kirstie Alley, a two-time Emmy winner whose roles on the TV mega hit Cheers and in the Look Who Is Talking films made her one of the biggest stars in American comedy in the late 1980s and early 1990s, died Monday. She was 71. Alley died of cancer that was only recently discovered. Her children, True and Lily Parker, said in a post on Twitter. Alley's manager Donovan Daughtry confirmed the death in an email to the Associated Press. As iconic as she was on screen, she was an even more amazing mother and grandmother, her children's statement said. She starred opposite Ted Danson as Rebecca Howe on Cheers, the beloved NBC sitcom about a Boston bar from 1987 to 1993. She joined the show at the height of its popularity after the departure of original star Shelley Long. Alley would win an Emmy for Best Lead Actress in a Comedy Series for the role in 1991. Jim Stewart, the white Tennessee farm boy and fiddle player who co-founded the influential Stax Records with his sister in a black, inner-city Memphis neighborhood and helped build the soulful Memphis sound, has died at age 92. Stewart died peacefully and surrounded by his family on Monday, the Stax Museum of American Soul Music said in a news release. A cause of death was not disclosed and funeral plans were pending. Stewart was co-founder of Stax Records in Memphis, where during an era of racial strife, white musicians and producers worked alongside black singers, songwriters, and instrumentalists to create the Memphis sound embodied by Otis Redding, Isaac Hayes, Booker T and the MGS, Carla and Rufus Thomas, the staple singers, Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave, and many others. Now it's time for global updates. Drones struck inside Russia's border with Ukraine Tuesday in the second day of attacks, exposing the vulnerability of some of Moscow's most important military sites, observers said. Ukrainian officials did not formally confirm carrying out drone strikes inside Russia, and they have maintained ambiguity over previous high-profile attacks. But Ukrainian presidential advisor Mikhail Podolyak taunted Moscow in comments on Twitter, and Britain's defense ministry said Russia was likely to consider the attacks on Russian bases more than 500 kilometers from the border with Ukraine as some of the most strategically significant failures of force protection since its invasion of Ukraine. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Russian authorities will take the necessary measures to enhance protection of key facilities. Russian bloggers, who generally maintain contacts with officials in their countries, military criticized the lack of defensive measures. Ukrainian drones struck two air bases deep inside Russian territory, the Kremlin said Monday, shortly before Russian forces unleashed a massive missile barrage in Ukraine that struck homes and buildings and killed civilians. The unprecedented attack in Russia threatened a major escalation of the 9-month war because it hit an airfield housing bombers capable of carrying nuclear weapons. President Vladimir Putin has threatened to use all available means to defend his land, a remark many have interpreted to include nuclear weapons. Russia has been launching almost weekly bombardments of Ukraine in retaliation for another bold attack, the October 8 truck bombing of a vital bridge linking its mainland to the Crimean Peninsula. On Monday, Putin tried to show his country could bounce back from the embarrassment by driving a car across the partially repaired bridge. Putin personally opened the 19-kilometer bridge in 2018 as part of an expensive effort to solidify his claim on Crimea, which Russia illegally annexed in 2014. European Union leaders and their Western Balkan counterparts worked to strengthen their partnership at a summit Tuesday as Russia's war in Ukraine threatens to reshape the geopolitical balance in the region. Even though their goal of joining the bloc remains a distant one, Albania, Bosnia, Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia and Serbia were given concrete signs that their future is within the EU instead of mere promises of eventual membership. European Council President Charles Michel, who jointly chaired the summit in Albania's capital, Tirana, hailed it as a symbolic meeting that will cement their futures within Europe. As proof of the bloc's commitment, Michel underscored EU energy support to the region in light of the war's impact on supplies and prices, as well as a mobile telephone roaming charges agreement. A man was arrested Tuesday on suspicion of assault after an egg was allegedly hurled towards King Charles III during a visit to a town centre, police said. Bedfordshire police said a man in his 20s was being questioned over an alleged common assault. Charles was meeting members of the public outside the town hall in Luton, 30 miles north of London, when the projectile was apparently thrown. He was moved to a different area by his security guards and resumed shaking hands with members of the public. The king has travelled widely across Britain since becoming monarch on the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth, in September. He was due to visit several sites in Luton on Tuesday, including a transit station and the Sikh house of worship, a Gurdwara. Last month, a 23-year-old man was arrested after eggs were hurled at Charles and his wife Camilla, the Queen consort, during a visit to York, Northern England. The man was later released on bail. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,328.44. The NYSE Composite is decreased by 146.35 points or 0.95%. Tokyo stock close price is 27,885.87. The Nikkei 225 index is increased by 65.47 points or 0.24%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,212.5334. The Shanghai Composite Index is increased by 0.72 points or 0.02%. Hong Kong stock close price is 19,441.18. The Hang Seng Index is decreased by 77.11 points or 0.40%. Bombay stock close price is 62,626.36. The Sensex index is decreased by 208.24 points or 0.33%. Now a look of today's sports stories. Right-hander Kyle Gibson and the Baltimore Orioles finalized a $10 million one-year contract on Monday. The 35-year-old would receive a $150,000 assignment bonus if traded, payable by the receiving team. He also can earn a $25,000 bonus if he is elected or selected for the All-Star team. Gibson was an All-Star in 2021. Gibson was 10-8 with a 5.05 ERA in 31 starts for Philadelphia last season. He also pitched 2 1/3 scoreless innings in 2 relief appearances in the postseason for the NL champions. Baltimore gained another experienced arm as it looks to build on its surprising season. After losing 110 games the previous year, the Orioles contended for an AL wildcard for much of the summer before finishing 83-79 for the franchise's first winning record since 2016. Cristiano Ronaldo was dropped from the starting lineup for Portugal's match against Switzerland on Tuesday in the round of 16 of the World Cup. The move came a day after his coach expressed frustration about his team captain's attitude in the last game. Gonçalo Ramos, who plays for Portuguese club Benfica, started in Ronaldo's place at Lusail Stadium. Ronaldo jogged onto the field for the pre-match warm-up to loud cheers. He came out alone after the starters, leading the substitutes onto the field and kicking the ball around with them in light drills. After warming up, Ronaldo walked through the tunnel toward the locker room and stopped to pose for a photo with a female volunteer. He leaned down and draped his arm around her for the picture. João Cancelo, a fullback who started all 3 matches of the group stage, was also dropped from the starting lineup. Now the World Cup football match reports. Morocco became the first Arab nation and only the 4th African nation to advance to the World Cup quarterfinals, beating Spain 3-0 in a penalty shootout on Tuesday. Achraf Hakimi, who was born in Madrid and previously played for Real Madrid, converted the deciding penalty in the shootout. Abdulhamid Sabiri and Hakim Ziyech, who returned to the national team after a dispute with the previous coach, also scored for Morocco. Pablo Sarabia, Carlos Soler and Sergio Busquets missed their penalties for Spain, with Sarabia hitting the post and Morocco goalkeeper Yassine Bounou stopping the other two. The teams drew 0-0 in regulation and extra time. With Cristiano Ronaldo on the bench, the superstar striker's replacement scored a hat-trick to lead Portugal over Switzerland 6-1 and into the World Cup quarterfinals on Tuesday. Gonçalo Ramos, a 21-year-old forward who only made his Portugal debut last month, made his first start for his country and demonstrated the kind of clinical finishing Ronaldo was once known for. Ramos scored the opening goal in the 17th minute and added others in the 51st and 67th, by which time chants of Ronaldo, Ronaldo were swirling around the 89,000-seat Lusail Stadium. The 37-year-old Ronaldo entered as a substitute in the 72nd minute to loud cheers, though Portugal had the game wrapped up by then, with defenders Pepe and Rafael Guerreiro also scoring. Rafael Leao added another goal in stoppage time. Manuel Akanji scored for Switzerland. Let's have a look on today's weather chart. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest updates. Millennium TV US and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jadoo TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.